you find yourself lying awake at night, replaying conversations you had during the day, earlier, now, or 16 years ago, wondering if you said the wrong thing, what if you said looks stupid, oh my God, let's talk about that right now. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. I am excited that you are here. Happy March. That is right. We are here. Happy March. If you are anywhere close to where I live here in the United States, you're going to want to remember to set your clocks forward if you didn't already do so. So I hope that your January and February, you got through that. February was very interesting for me. And now here we are in March, and I cannot wait to talk to you about this topic. I've talked about this topic multiple times, and I always like to hit it from different angles because sometimes you need the aha moment, even if you already heard it 15 times. And this is on overthinking. I'm also going to add a little bit of obsessive thinking because overthinking is a lot of it different than obsessive thinking. But I do have a whole podcast on obsessive thinking, so I'm not going to focus too hard on it, but I am going to touch on it. And there is a great worksheet over on Patreon that will really help you kind of unbox some of it, because just know that you're not broken. You're just scattered, right? It's just a little scattered. So you just need a little direction. If you are interested in that worksheet, don't forget, there's also the free Letting Go workbook that's over on my website that you can find here in my show notes, as well as access to my calendar, where to book appointments, and different options. So if that's your jam, it's there. And if you want the worksheet, it's on Patreon, patreon.com/the Positivity Experience. So let's jump into it. So excited. All right. I am a professional obsessive thinker, not so much an overthinker while that's there. Well, I mean, I guess that's stupid. Yes, it is, but it's more obsessive. Now that comes from my Puro, which we talked about a few weeks ago on my obsessive thoughts. Always been there. It's part of my OCD brain. So that's where and again, we won't talk about it terribly long, but that's where I latch on to a thought. And then you just it's like you can't break that cycle. So I've given you tips over there along in that podcast that might be helpful for you. And that can be really problematic. So also in obsessive thinking, just briefly, it's almost like you need something to obsess on, right? So it's like you're thinking of this, oh my God, you're spiraling, it's out of control. And then all of a sudden it just goes zoop, and you just find something else to obsess on. And then zoop, and then you find something else to obsess on. So there's processes to it. There's medication for it to help with it. Doesn't fix it. But this, we're going to talk about overthinking, because overthinking, I think, is a very normal, whatever that is, part of life for certain things. But it can be very problematic if it is just draining you. So I'm going to give you an example, and then we'll talk about and we'll talk about the science behind it. But it's different and very standard if you know you have an interview coming up, or you have a difficult conversation that you have to have on Friday. And you sit there and you're like, oh my God, okay, well, what am I going to say? All right, I hope I don't look stupid. What am I going to wear? All right, yes, that's an issue, but honestly, it's short-lived. It's just until you have that conversation, and it's fine. That's fine. That's okay. Here's the issue. Now it's 2 a.m. and maybe it's 2, maybe it's 11, and you're laying in bed and you're like, oh my God, did I say that right? Oh my gosh, did I hurt somebody's feelings? Which, by the way, you're going to hurt people's feelings a lot of times when you're protecting your peace, and that's a whole different topic. However, or you're laying in bed at 11 o'clock. Well, what if I say this and then they say this? But then it's not going to work. But then what? Okay. This is out of your control. A lot of this is out of your control. 98% of your life is out of your control. All you can do is focus on anything that you can change, anything in your control, which is going to be your mindset. So I want to go into it, okay? Because when you're lying awake, it is problematic, because now you're constantly overthinking, and it's actually changing your brain chemistry, and it's not changing it in a good way. It's really not, because it goes to the neuroscience, it goes to the neuro pathways. We understand that trauma can kind of rewire your brain, but here's the positive and the best news ever. You can rewire your brain. Yes, you can. Now, don't get that confused with chemicals. Okay, rewiring your brain is a neuropathway, right? So think of it as, I'm going to date myself here, Well, kind of, but even DJs now don't even use vinyl, but there was a 12-inch vinyl. There was 45s, there was 78s, but there was a 12-inch vinyl. And in that, each song, it had grooves. So each song, when it hit a certain groove, would start a new song. Think of the obsessive thought as staying in that loop. So it's if the record is stuck. So it'd be like, like it's not changing to the next one. And back in the day, you just kind of hit the table and it would go to the next one. Maybe it would scratch to 2. But that's kind of the same thing that you're going to do in your brain. You're almost going to tap that a little bit. So your chemicals just can be addressed. Chemicals are chemicals. So you can address that through medications and some other supplements, different things like that. But the mindset and the way your mind thinks is something that you can absolutely rewire. Why do we overthink? And we're going to talk a little bit about neuroscience. So overthinking, there's all these little pieces of your brain, right? You have your hippocampus, you have your amygdala, you have your prefrontal cortex, and that's just 3 that you hear we talk about all the time. There's like 80 million other parts of your brain that none of us still know. Like there's so much gray matter that's just there, and we don't tap into 95% of our brain. It's different parts, okay? So it just seems like we're using it all, but there's so much more that we are still learning. And overthinking, it activates that prefrontal cortex. So what is prefrontal cortex responsible for? Thinking and planning. So your prefrontal cortex is thinking and planning. So just kind of keep that in mind. We're going to go through each one. But when it's overreactive and it goes onto loop, now you're in analysis paralysis. I'm sure you've heard about that before. And what that does is now that activates your amygdala. Let's call that your critter brain, your survival brain, your reptilian brain, whatever you want to call it. And what your amygdala does is that's your fear center. So your amygdala goes, hello, we are in danger. Like this is a problem. So what that does is that gets triggered and it pushes your brain now into fight or flight, even though there's no real danger. Okay, so let's kind of stick with those 2. We're going to talk about cortisol in a minute. Again, look at your brain as a family, okay? And they're all connected. Somehow or another, they're all related. Siblings, spouses, whatever, they're all related. Just like your family, depending on who you're around, you're going to get a little bit more reactive. Think of that as your amygdala. Okay, so I want to go through that. Prefrontal cortex, right? That goes into thinking and planning. So obsessive thinking and overthinking, where is that going to activate? Your prefrontal cortex. So it's like, oh my God, okay, let me think, wait, I can't plan around this. And when that's overworked, that's going to loop on the analysis paralysis. So you're like, well, okay, if I'm doing this, then this is going to happen. Yeah, but then this. So now you analyze it to the high heavens. So if you're a painter, in my case, I'm writing my 2nd book, almost done, by the way. Yes, for those asking. But a painter, my husband's done a lot of oils. I can look at this painting because I can't paint my way out of a paper bag unless I'm doing a paint night. And I can go, my God, that's a gorgeous painting. And he could be like, yeah, I had to stop myself because I really didn't like the shading here. And I was really trying to get it this way, but it looks great, right? It looks great. But his analysis of it, this is where you see perfectionism. Now he's fine. He can step away. But this is where you would see perfectionism come into play because you're analyzing, good God, analyzing this on a constant loop. Oh my God, is this good enough? What can I say? Did I say that enough? If I say this, then this is going to happen. Because your prefrontal cortex is going, wait a minute, hold on a second. We got a lot happening. We need to think and we need to plan. We need to strategize. Strategies are great. Plans are great, but not if you are in a distorted space of thinking. Now your amygdala, that lovely little teeny tiny critter thing that sits in our brain, is responsible for a lot of things. Fear of the unknown, fear, anything fear-based. So remember, if you have something like an ADHD or a PURO, which is obsessive compulsive, anything, just remember things are a little off. Now, and each one of those has a neuro pathway. So they sit independently, but of course they're all connected, like family, right? Like bloodlines, you're all connected. So if something is too excessive in one area, it's going to be recessive in the other. So excessive, too much, recessive, not enough. See this a lot. I do a lot of energy work and I do a lot of Reiki and things like that. So different parts of your chakras can be excessive or recessive. And it really makes a difference. So if you're overthinking, your chakra in that area would be extremely over over. So you have to like kind of pull it back a little bit. And your cortisol levels do spike. So this is going to keep you in heightened stress. So your cortisol is responsible for stress. That's your stress hormone. Cortisol is not bad. It's not all bad. Like, hey, it helps you. If someone is chasing you, if a lion is chasing you down the street, you kind of want your stressor to be like, whoa, what the hell is happening here? Let's go. Remember, and I talked to you about this before, as smart as your brain is, you can be a rocket science genius. Your brain is still only going to believe what you feed it. And I was talking to you about this a couple weeks ago, where back in the day, I would lay under a sheet. And if I just put the sheet over my head, somehow I was safe. That's unrealistic, but my brain believed it. So this is what we did. So remember, what you feed your brain, it's going to believe. So if your prefrontal cortex goes, holy hell, we are out of control. This is not good. Your amygdala goes, hey, we're in danger. We need to figure this out. And your cortisol levels go, yep, let's do this. But the problem is there's no real it's good. There's no real danger. So then you have the common distortion. So you have to remember you have common distortions within your brain. This is where all or nothing thinking comes in. That's your catastrophizing. God, I cannot speak today. You're imagining those worst case scenarios. Think of it as glass half empty, glass half full. Mindset is, oh my God, never going to happen. Mindset is like, oh, this will be good, right? You want to be careful of black and white. There's a few things in the world that are black and white, but they do exist. However, you got to remember that you're catastrophizing and it is only debilitating you. You are not living your life. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're out making movies and millions of dollars and having your best life. Are you though? Because you think you're having your best life and you're taking the actions, but then your brain is like, well, what if this ends? Where's it going to go? Well, what's going to happen? Oh my God. So you're still functioning. And I know some of you do this because I know I have to focus on it every day, multiple times to be like, come back to here, concentrate on what you're doing. And now having my sessions does help because I'm usually in somebody else's stuff, but I'm not having them all the time, all night, right? And then I always have to have that place, which is why the 5 journals. Why 5 journals over 1? We've discussed this. 1 journal is just, and I'd rather do 1 than none, but 1 journal, you're just taking all the clutter from one place and just cluttering something else. For me, I have developed those 5 journals and there's a reason that they exist. It really helps you process it. So when you're overthinking and you're catastrophizing, it all seems so overwhelming. Because at that moment in time, it is overwhelming, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. It's just a distortion. That's where the black and white thinking, take black and white thinking with catastrophizing. Oh my God, this is never going to work. What? Oh my gosh, what if it, and it's usually, rarely are you like, oh my God, yes, this is for sure going to work out. Unless you are in a manic phase or you just happen to feel good that day. Rarely are you swinging this in a positive direction whatsoever. And then here's the other problem. Now you start mind reading. That's right. Suddenly you know what people are thinking. You know what people are feeling. Oh, you are mind read in. You are assuming that you know what other people think about you. Even if I said to you, I don't like you. Well, you don't have to assume it. I'm telling you, I don't like you. But you don't have to be like, oh, why? What did I do? First of all, I'm not going to tell you I don't like you. That would never be me. It used to be me. I'd be like, oh, I can't stand you. But I don't do that. It's just if you're not in alignment with me or I'm not in alignment with you, we just separate. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. But let's say if somebody's like, I don't like you. You don't have to figure out 15 ways why not. It's not a vibe. The problem is you assume that people think that way. You assume that when somebody looks at you, they're judging you. You assume that someone says, oh my God, she totally tanked that entire presentation at work. She has no idea what she's doing. Even if somebody thinks that way, that's because they have low self-esteem within themselves. Rarely though, listen, you guys know this. I've spoken in front of groups of hundreds of people and very prominent people. I am not embarrassed by my ADHD. I will never be embarrassed by my ADHD. If I'm talking and and it's like all eyes are on me and a little light flickers or something zooms by my face, I am going to get distracted. I am going to all of a sudden forget anything I just talked about unless it's on some kind of a slide. Nope, I will not know. So I will stand there and I will say to somebody who's sitting down, what was I just saying? What was I just talking about? Now, you might go, oh my God. Why am I paying to sit here this girl doesn't even know what she's talking about. No, it's not that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's that my ADHD kicked in and I lost my train of thought. And I can tell you for a fact, the amount of people who have come up to me afterwards and said, oh my God, I feel seen. And I'm like, why? Oh my God, I'm always embarrassed when my mind slips. And you just did it in front of everybody because I'm not embarrassed by it. And I don't have to worry about what others are thinking because it's not my problem. But then when somebody comes up and says, oh my God, this I'm seen, that's amazing because I'm going to be me. And that's what you need to be is you. You have to be you. And always remember, let's go into this for a hot minute. Not everybody's going to like you. Stop trying to get everybody like you. It's not going to happen. Some people are going to vibe hard with you and some people are not going to vibe hard with you. And that's okay. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to assume. Oh, here's the other thing. Don't assume just because you do something as a favor to somebody and you didn't up front say, hey, I might need this in return. And now you get upset because you assumed that they would return that. That's a problem. And then guess what's going to happen? Now you're going to overthink that. Yep. Now you're overthinking. Why shouldn't I have done that? Well, why did I do that? Well, that's dumb. I could have said this. Well, I didn't say this. I can't believe that that's how they thought about me. That's a literal dialogue that you would have with yourself at 1:00 in the morning. I mean, it's the mind reading. I assume, and this should happen. You can't do that because then you're left to try to figure it out. And this is where your overthinking will come into play. And I wasn't kidding when I said in the beginning, like, oh, a conversation you had today or 15 years ago. Because you know what? There could be something that you smell or a sight or a commercial that came on. And now you're lying in bed and you're 50 and you're going, man, I can't believe I had that conversation in second grade. I cannot believe I did that. And you're like, what? Right? Because your brain, once it gets active like that, unless you're working on meditations and coming back into base and being mindful, what's going to happen is your brain needs to go somewhere. It has to, because now you're in a heightened state. Your cortisol's up. Your amygdala's like, holy shit, we are in danger. And your prefrontal cortex is like, we need to plan something, but there's nothing to do. So guess what you just created? Serious anxiety. Serious anxiety. Because it's like, that's why you move your body. That's why you don't get on social media. I will promote that for 100,000 years. Stop staying on social media. Stop. It is not benefiting you. Great. Give yourself 10, 15 minutes through the day. Look at cow hoof videos. Look at barnacles being removed off of turtles. That's what I do. And whatever it is, don't follow things that are going to activate you. Don't sit there and allow yourself to go down a rabbit hole. I say give yourself 10 minutes, maybe 15. Okay, in the beginning, because you're probably going obsessively, either do it to an hour or a half hour, but you're going to have to step down. I do not scroll socials. I have no idea what's going on. I'll go on, post, a lot of that's scheduled. I'll scroll through a few things. Now, I will go on and look for any crochet things or recipes that I'll go on for. But I share that with you because a lot of your overthinking is now being activated by what you're seeing on social media. But they're married, but they're dating. Oh my God. Is there something wrong with me? Oh my God. So what if I don't get married? Oh, and then I'm going to go to her wedding and then I'm not going to have a date. So everybody's going to think I'm a loser. Literally something that you'll think about. So why would you subject yourself to something? Because you're avoiding being alone. We talked about that last week. You're avoiding being alone. So you're distracting yourself with socials and other things. In turn, that's making you feel not great about yourself. And you're overthinking the whole freaking thing. That's where the problem comes into play. And that affects your brain. There is a physical impact to the brain. Prolonged cortisol levels, right? And I'm postmenopausal for almost 8 years. I've had anxiety all my life, severe, debilitating, crippling anxiety all my life. I am great and happy to be through my menopause, honestly. There's always changes, right? Your body does this, your hormones do this. So just know that you're already going to have a little higher cortisol levels, depending on what you're going through situationally or even chemically. So you want to be mindful of that so you can do some of the natural things. It's not always medication, but there's a place for everything. Because if you have prolonged cortisol levels, it's going to shrink that hippocampus. What is the hippocampus? That's responsible for memory and learning. That's your hippocampus. Your hippocampus is, I know I think Krampus, by the way. And that's how I can remember names of things. That's memory and learning. Now, I love to learn. My memory, it goes right out the window. Sometimes I'm like, what is happening to my cognitive decline right now? The other day I tried to put milk in the pantry. I was thinking, try to put milk in the pantry. Just yesterday, went to the gym. I try to only go 3 days a week. Left my Peloton water bottle there. It's a nice water bottle. Get home and I'm like, crap, I left my bottle. No problem. In the process of that, I said, I need to go by the grocery store because I want to make something in my some ice cream. Okay. I just pulled right in the grocery store. Like I just totally forgot where the hell I was going. Because my brain is always on go mode. So I needed to step back. When I saw I did that, I had to come back to base. I had to do some breathing. But I say that to you because all of these things get affected and now your hippocampus is going crazy. It doesn't really remember anything. So now you feel like you've lost your damn mind and you want to learn. But then if you have ADHD or other, neurodivergent things, then that makes it hard. So now you start overthinking, why do I have this? Why can't this go away? Do you see the vicious cycle? How the hell are you supposed to not have anxiety then? Of course you're going to have anxiety. You got all these little parts. You got memory, you got planning, you got fear, and they're all dancing together in your brain. They are having a party and they are all lit because none of them are making a lick of sense. So they're all on lit mode. Now, here's the other thing. That strengthens that connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So that's going to make you more reactive. You're going to stay ready reactive. And that's going to have that reactivity go into overdrive. Again, prefrontal cortex. Okay. We're like, hey man, let's plan. Let's kind of check this out a little bit. And your amygdala is like hell to the no. So think about that relationship. Then there's almost like a battle, a dissonance in your brain. That's almost like, well, I don't really want to feel that way, but my body says yes. This is why, and I've told you guys this before, anxiety doesn't come out of nowhere. Let's stop saying that. That's not true. Anxiety does not come out of nowhere. It feels like it comes out of nowhere. But what has happened is you've distracted yourself, you've stayed busy, you've done the things. And now once your body goes into a little bit of a chill mode, now your anxiety is like, well, it's about freaking time. Now process me out. And you're like, well, how the hell, where did this come from? It's always been there. As a matter of fact, I talked to you about that a few weeks ago, where I had all this stuff with the cats and the drama with the flooding. And I couldn't be reactive. I have to go into problem solving. What needs to be done? How can we fix this? What do we need to accept? And let's do it. Well, then once all that got taken care of, or at least was on the verge of getting taken care of, now my anxiety levels and my brain goes, okay, I'm on overdrive right now. Let's process things out. So then I really pull on all of these tools I give you, right? These tools aren't to make things go away. They're to give you processes for when you do it. But that's the whole thing. Remember that anxiety isn't coming out of nowhere. That's why you want to dedicate time to do your journals. You want to dedicate time to have time for yourself. Do something. It doesn't have to be crochet. It could be anything. Coloring. I don't care. That's going to give you time to process. And those 5 journals are important. Doing the hard work is important. Showing up for yourself when you don't feel like it is important. Sticking to consistency is important. And that's how you show up and lower those cortisol levels. Because if not, this is just going to be a constant chronic thing. And it's weakening. Good God. It's weakening the prefrontal cortex's ability to make rational decisions. I mean, you can't under pressure, right? You're not making rational decisions under pressure. People said all the time, my God, how do you make those decisions? Because I have critical thinking. I sit in the moment and I take any emotions and I don't run from them. I just nicely go, hey, I haven't forgot about you. Right now, we can't all be here. Like, it's too much. Like, just go sit down have a drink. And then we can talk later, right? It's not about avoiding. It's about compartmentalizing for what needs to be done. But I can do that using my prefrontal cortex because I'm not thinking irrationally. So this is where that overthinking comes from a science perspective. So at least you can understand that it's not just like you. It isn't just you. And you want to be careful of saying, it's just how I am. We're not going to play that dumb game, right? We're not going to do that. Now, there's also an emotional impact. Okay, so we know physically, that's a physical thing that's happening. And that's almost easier to accept. In some ways, and I don't mean accept, it's almost easier to be like, oh, okay, here's a reason. The emotional side is what becomes a problem. You'll get emotionally exhausted. Go back to the emotional labor. This goes into that. Oh my God, I cannot begin to tell you, even just recently, with all that nonsense, I felt like I ran 18 marathons. I didn't burn any calories, but I sure did feel that way emotionally. Because I was like, oh my God, my whole thing was disrupted. Now I had to change things. I had to move podcast recordings around. It was just a thing. And I adapt well, but I don't adapt well when I'm not processing any of my cortisol. And I didn't give myself time to process it because everything was like one behind another. So just be aware of it because you will be emotionally exhausted. And I'm sure so many of you have been like, why am I so tired? I'm not doing anything. What the hell am I tired from? Well, you're emotionally exhausted. And that's just from overthinking. And overthinking, of course, is in alignment with anxiety. So, you kind of got to see where the connectors are. And before I even talk more about it number one is you're going to have to stop trying to solve it and build Rome in a day. Rome was not built in a day. There is nothing to solve. You're going to work through it, not around it, not over it. You work through it. But that doesn't mean it's fun. And your overthinking brain is trying to make it make sense of the unknown. But guess what, babe? The unknown is where everything beautiful lives. You're not going to be able to know, well, if I do this, this is going to happen. Well, if I do this, I know what they thought. Oh my God, they thought I was so stupid. So now we're lamenting. And should I make this decision? Should I not make this decision? Oh my God. The amount of worry that we have really robs us from our entire day. Now, when would be a good time for you to start talking to somebody? And I don't just mean from a therapy perspective, maybe even medication, right? So remember, psychiatrist, therapist/coach, like I'm in the latter part of that. A psychiatrist prescribes you medicine. They're not really going to walk you through things. They're going to hear what's going on. They're going to prescribe you medication. So keep knowing that. I prescribe medication to my clients through a psychiatrist or a doctor. I do not have the ability to give you a prescription, but I have the ability to write down my findings and say, this is the medication I think that would work. You would in turn would give that to a doctor. So I share that with you because so many people don't want to do the medication route, and that is fine. I am not here to promote medication. I definitely don't get any kickback from it. And I studied holistic medicines, full ass holistic medicines. But guess what? Sometimes holistic medicines are not going to be safe or effective, or they can be in combination, but you got to be careful because that's not always safe. So I share that because there's a point in time where you have to say, is my overthinking/obsessive thinking kind of in a normal range? Yeah, if it's situational, of course, you're going to have it. You're a human. But is it robbing you of your day? Are you thinking about this all day, every day? Is it becoming something that is just making you feel worse about yourself? Is it the overthinking that's really keeping you in a stuck space? Are you feeling stuck? Are you feeling like disappointed all the time? Well, it might be time to consider something, including talk, but include other things. Now, there's various levels of talk. This is important. You have your cognitive behavioral therapy. That's great. Helps you do reframing. I personally focus on exposure. So what you fear, we're going to do, and we're going to do it frequently. That's why I'm only good for people who are tired of their own shit. I'm not going to be there for just intro. So that's exposure. Doing the things and facing the things in which you're afraid to do. That's a beautiful thing. There's acceptance and commitment therapy. I love that too. I try to practice that with my clients, and of course there's radical acceptance. But so there's all of these different levels. There's EMDR. There's so many areas that you can work on, and yes, you can use them all. Here's the beautiful thing. You don't just have to one chip. You can have many. But I share this because I think you are in this place that you're trying to stop your overthinking. Stop doing that. What you resist persists. They did this psychological study years ago. It's funny because they do it like when you're learning about the brain and neuroscience. They call it like the red apple or whatever, and they use different things, elephant, whatever. And they go, okay, I don't want you to, there's a red apple. I don't want you to think about this red apple. You're like, okay, I'm not going to think about this red apple. Okay, I'm not going to think about the red apple. What? I'm not going to think about the red apple. I'm thinking about the damn red apple. So and that's proven. That it's an entire exercise. Try it with yourself. Put something somewhere and go, do not think of blank. See how well that works for you long term, because you're going to keep telling yourself not to think about it. Just how the brain works, how the brain is wired. Planning, hello, well, like, what are we doing? We can't do this. Let's problem solve. Okay. And a lot of it is, like I said, it's neuropathways, and that's where you are. So I want you to get clear that trying to outrun your overthinking and stop trying to overthink is not going to give you the outcome you're seeking. It is a disruptor, right? That's where you've heard 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 launch. I think Mel's done that. You've heard I do the box breathing. There's all of these different things that you can do as a pattern interrupter, but it doesn't fix the issue, right? So it's great to have the tools. It's great to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's great to do box breathing, but you want to get to the root behind it. So it's great. We can give you tools to interrupt it, but we really need to have you dig down deeper as to why it keeps surfacing. So that's working through it, not working around it. Always remember that if you're trying to rush through it, you're trying to make it make sense, you're trying to understand it completely, get off Google, please. Please get off Google. Please. I'm begging you for your own mental health. Get off Google. You're not looking to understand it. You think you are. And then that's going to trigger other shit in you. Oh my God, well, maybe I have this. Now you go on this. Stay off of freaking Dr. Google. It is not your friend. Not your friend. You want a recipe? You want to see where the restaurant is? Yes, Google is your buddy. You want to look up medical thing? That ain't it. So you got to stay off of that, because then you're going to overthink what you read. And again, you're not really looking for it to be okay. You say you are. Yeah, not really. Yeah, not really. You want to prove that something's wrong. 100 comments. You're somewhere, you get 100 comment cards. Good, great. Oh my God, you're over the top. You're amazing. Your presentation was beautiful. And one comment in the middle somewhere goes, it was all right. Yeah, it was all right. And you're still reading 57 great comments after that. Guess what's going to happen? You're still only focused on that one person that was like, yeah, it's all right. You're like, screw all of these other things. I'm focusing here, because your brain goes, we have to fix this. We don't like discomfort. We do not like this. Why is this happening right now? And that's where you have to be mindful. You're not trying to outrun these overthinking processes, but you do have to process them. I know we all think that we can handle things in our brain. We can all do this. Again, another scientific study, like only 1 to 2, think about this, in all of the world, 1 to 2% of people can actually really multitask correctly. And we're not it. I know you're over there going, well, I'm in the 1%. You're not. You are not. You're not thriving. Stop telling yourself, I thrive under pressure, which, I mean, in some levels we do. You prepare, you survive it. That's true. But that has to be the exception, not the rule. If you are constantly pushing yourself and delaying and pushing yourself, remember when you are procrastinating, it is you are overwhelmed. You are not lazy. You're trying to do too much at one time. You cannot do it in your head. Go back to, I think it's episode 37, like way back in the day. And I told you I'm going to definitely revamp it for you. Same stuff, just newer. On micro-goaling. You got a micro goal. I don't give a damn what you want to do. Talking about the basement. I wanted to get all that shit done at one time. Guess what? I couldn't. Had to let the thing dry out. Then I have to treat it. Then I'm getting rid of stuff. That is a process. And you can't do it all at one time. And you can't tell yourself, I can make this in my head. I can do that. You can't. Stop. You're overthinking now. Well, if I do this, then I can do this. Stop running from it. Just focus on working through it. You're making your life so much harder than it needs to be. That's what we all do. You need the cognitive reframing. How do you break it? Cognitive reframing. Everything is a reframe. That's where the cognitive behavioral comes in. But mindset is more of the Buddhist type stoic practice that I practice, where you can't control anything. No one except for your mindset and your reactions. No human can change your mindset. They can try. And no human can make you react. They might like it. They might want it. They might want that reactivity, but you are in control of those things. You just might not know how to do that yet. That's why we're together. That's why I'm the little person that sits on your shoulder and through the week. And I'm going, what the hell are you doing? Hey, stop that. Just picture me the next time you go through this overthinking, or the next time you're worried about a conflict, or the next time you feel over explaining. I'm sitting on your shoulder. Please give me something cute to wear. I'm not super girly. I need something cute, but not, over the top. And I'm sitting on your shoulder, and you know me. I'm going to be like, what the hell are you doing? Get it together. Just picture my little foot kicking you up against the head, because you know what? You can do this. but your brain is hardwired into automatic thinking. So of course, even if it doesn't work for you and it's not working for you, it is comfortable. So it could be shit that's not going your way at all, but you know how to do it. Change is great, but change is scary. Consistency can be scary. What you got to stop doing is convincing yourself it's hard. Life is hard, and it's harder to stay where you are right now. It's harder to fight your overthinking. It's harder to try to understand your overthinking. Stop, breathe. Everything doesn't have to be solved. There doesn't have to be, this is why. Stop. Because once you work on these other areas, guess what's going to happen? Your amygdala is going to be like, okay, like I'm still on alert, but it doesn't seem like we're in that much trauma, but hey, I'm going to be here. I will live with anxiety all my life. You might as well. It just doesn't control my life. Sometimes that's where I have to check it. So you have to remember these different parts of your brain are also firing on what they're used to know, on what they're used to knowing. So if you have neurodivergence, if you have bipolar, if you have schizophrenia, if you have any of those things that also contribute, yes, it's going to make it harder. Absolutely. Not impossible. Not impossible. And you are overthinking on so many levels. And then sometimes you're overthinking the overthinking of the overthinking. You really are. And this is also why you can't make a decision half the times. Hey, where do you want to eat? I don't know. Yeah, I cannot begin to tell you how many times people have said, or I've said to people, hey, where do you want to go to eat? It doesn't matter. Okay. Want to go Mexican? Yeah, I don't know if I'm in the mood for Mexican. Okay. You want sushi? Yeah, I don't know if I want sushi. All right. So you know what you don't want. So don't tell me it doesn't matter, because it does. And sometimes you got to do the same thing. What is it, right? We try so hard to look for things that we want in a real relationship, what we want from a job, what we want. Okay. Instead of that, let's do a reframe. What don't you want? What don't you want in a relationship? What don't you want from a job? Again, within reason. That's going to be easier than sometimes knowing what it is that you want. So if you're overthinking, what am I going to wear? What am I going to wear to this meeting? I got this big meeting. They're coming in from Japan. Oh my God, their all eyes are going to be on me. What am I going to wear? How about instead of doing that, how about saying, okay, in my closet, what do I like? Maybe you don't like anything. Maybe it's a reason to go shopping, but be careful of that too. Slippery slope. You go, oh, I really like this shirt. Obviously, you don't want to wear the same thing to a meeting that you're going to wear to the bar tonight, but you can look and go, oh, I really like this blazer. I really like this shirt. Okay. I don't care what you think they're going to want to see. I mean, go polished or whatever. If you like this red shirt, wear the red shirt. Put a dark blazer over top of it, a pair of black slacks or a skirt or whatever you're going to do. Pick out something you like to wear. Stop worrying about what they're going to think. You know, do what it is that makes you feel good. You may say, oh, I think I should wear this. I don't really like this. Then don't wear it. Stop worrying about what you're going to wear and what they're going to think. A person's going to think what they're going to think. And if you feel uncomfortable or you dress according, like completely out of what you like, it's going to show. Then it won't really matter what the hell you're wearing if you're uncomfortable. I mean, it's easy to see. It's easy to spot. So in order to know what you do want, let's distract your brain from that, right? Because your brain goes, well, what do I need? What do I need? And let's just divert it a little bit. Let's just, hey man, come over here. Yeah, I know. I got you. I just need to know, what is it that you don't want? Oh, I didn't think about that. I definitely don't want Asian tonight. Okay. So no Asian food tonight. I don't mind Italian. I definitely don't want Mexican. Okay. So now I know you don't mind Italian. I'm good with Italian, or I wouldn't have asked you. I'd have been like, let's eat Italian. So you know what? Now you've identified that you want to eat Italian. Doesn't matter where we go, but you know what you want. And you didn't even have to overthink it. Versus, oh, what's she going to think? Is she going to get upset? Maybe she doesn't want to go to Italian. I would have told you straight up, where do you want to go? And I don't want to have Italian. So don't overthink it. It's so much easier if you just distance from what you don't want, and then what you do want starts to come into play. So let's use that in overthinking terms. Okay, I'm going to go up there. If they don't like it, I'm going to be out of a job. Okay, catastrophizing. Oh my God, all of these things are going to happen. I don't know. What if I get up there and I lose my mind and I forget everything that I'm talking about? It could happen. Sure, could. Or you can reframe that and say, I am as prepared as I need to be. I'm comfortable with what I know. I have all of it written down. It's okay. You're reframing it, not to kill it. You're reframing, I've done the best I can to research this. I've written and planned it out. Listen, how it falls apart, it falls apart. If it sticks together, it does. But you frame it in your mind to say, I've done the best to my ability. I've done that. So we can't worry about them. So what the hell are you overthinking? And this is where you start doing that cognitive reframe. You start exposing yourself to it. And that's also where we get confidence. By doing the scary things. You got to interrupt that. You can do Mel's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 launch. You can do that. You absolutely can. But you can also use my box breathing, where you can also do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 sight thing. This is different than the Mel thing, where it's mindful grounding. You do 5 things that you can see. Just look around, find 5 things that you can see. 4 things that you can touch. Maybe it's your hair, maybe it's your shirt, maybe it's this microphone. 4 things that you can touch, right? So now we've looked at 5 things, and don't rush it. Don't be like sun, moon, stars, tree, apples. Okay, just calm down. You do not do these practices to feel better. You do not go to therapy to feel better. You do not go to the gym to lose weight. That's not why you're doing it. It's not why you do it. So when you're looking at 5 things, don't try to chase it out of your head. Not, I'm going to look at 5 things and it's going to go bye-bye. No, look at it. Okay. Now, something that you can touch, like I'm touching the microphone with texture. Maybe it's the wall. Like, just calm down. Let's not do it all at one time and try to rush through this. 3 things that you can hear. I know you might be like, well, I can't always hear. You can. Is it the clock? Is it the wind that just blew by? Was it a crunch outside? Was it the heat turning on? I don't know, but you did hear it. 3 things. 2 things that you can smell, right? I love having my lotions with me, or I have candles or anything like that. I like to also, here's a little fun fact for you, and it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it doesn't matter. You can get a little like perfume or cologne, you know, the little roll-ons, the little roller stick things. Keep one of those with you. And then if something like this happens, just open it up and smell it. So that's one smell immediately. And it might have rained. You might smell rain. You might smell fabric softener. It doesn't matter. You're just looking for 2 things and 1 thing that you can taste. Could be the coffee that you had earlier. It is what it is. Maybe you need a mint. Maybe you pop a mint in your mouth. I like Werther's caramels. I realize that makes me sound 96, and I'm okay with it because everybody needs the Werther's. But I like to have things. Maybe it's a drink of water. Maybe it's a piece of candy. It doesn't matter. So what you're doing is, remember, you're just looking at 5 things, right? So let's do this together right now. Breathe. I want you to take your time, and I'm going to count for you. I want you to look at 5 things. Ready? You're going to look at 1 thing, absorb it, see it. Now let's look at another thing. Not rushing. We're good. Let's look at another thing, different. Like, let's look somewhere else. What color is it? What does it look like? What size is it? Love that. Let's look somewhere else. Does it have buttons on it? What color is it? Okay, cool. And let's look at something else. Now just let's breathe for a minute. Let's cleanse our palate. It's great. Love that so much. Now we're going to do 4 things that you can touch. It's okay. Let's touch your sweater, your shirt, your socks, your shoes, if you have a microphone, whatever. Let's slow. Okay. Let's get the first thing. Awesome. We're going to do it the same way we did the others. So I'm not going to do that with you. We just did it. Take your time. I personally like texture. It's a texture thing for me. And then you're going to do the same things with smell and taste. And give yourself a 10-minute worry period. Set your timer for 10 minutes and worry the shit out of worrying. Break out your negative journal. Let's negative the hell out of it for 10 minutes. And guess what you can do during the day? Jot down things you want to worry about when you have that 10-minute cycle. Jot it down. Get it out of your brain. Because know that your ass gets to obsess on it for 10 freaking minutes. 10 minutes, go hardcore. And then when it resets, then you're going to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 sight, 4 touch, things like that. You can do this. Just stop trying to fight your overthinking. There's a reason. It's okay. This too shall pass, and you can work through this. Don't rush the process. So now that you know, it's going to give you a little bit more clarity. You know what's going on in your brain. You do have the capacity. You just have to remember it's going to take a minute. And even when you quote unquote have it, guess what? Oh, the universe will be like, hold my beer. We got to do this again. because you got to use the tools over and over again in order for them to become something that's a habit and something that's repetitive for you. So you can do this. I trust you. I have faith in you, and I'm here for you every step of the way.